Have you ever met a man who seems trapped in perpetual youth? He's endlessly charming, full of grand ideas, and has a spirit of adventure that's almost contagious. He talks of the novels he will write, the businesses he will start, the far-off lands he will explore. He lives in a world of thrilling potential, and for a moment, he makes you believe in it too. But have you also noticed the other side? The pattern of unfinished projects, the string of fleeting relationships, an almost allergic reaction to commitment and responsibility. He is the life of the party, but he's never there for the cleanup. He is a master of the grand gesture, but a ghost when it comes to the quiet, daily work of building a life. This isn't just a personality quirk. This is a deep psychological pattern, a spiritual and emotional arrested development that prevents a boy from truly becoming a man. He may have the body of an adult, a job, and a car, but deep inside, he is still waiting for his real life to begin, forever postponing the descent into the messy, demanding reality of adulthood. Carl Jung had a name for this archetype, the Puer Aeternus. It's Latin for the eternal boy. And this figure isn't just a character in mythology. He is walking among us, perhaps even staring back at you from the mirror. The Puer Aeternus is the man who, at his core, refuses to leave the garden of childhood, and in doing so, sacrifices the possibility of ever becoming a king in his own right. This isn't a story about laziness. It's a story about a profound fear. A fear of being pinned down, a fear of limitation, and ultimately, a fear of life itself. Understanding this archetype isn't about judging others. It's about looking into the hidden parts of ourselves that refuse to grow up, the parts that cling to fantasy to avoid the sacred work of becoming whole. To truly understand the eternal boy, you have to recognize his captivating disguise. He isn't a failure. On the contrary, he's often exceptionally gifted, creative, and charismatic. He's the quintessential ideas man, the dreamer, the spiritual seeker, always on the verge of a breakthrough. His life is a series of thrilling beginnings. He moves to a new city, he switches careers the moment they become routine, he dives headfirst into intense whirlwind romances. What defines him is a deep connection to the world of spirit and possibility. He feels a divine discontent with the mundane world, believing he's destined for something greater than a 9-to-5 job and a mortgage. This is his charm. He reminds you of the freedom you may have lost. But beneath this glittering surface lies a deep corrosive shadow. Because he lives in the realm of what could be, he never truly commits to what is. His fear of being tied down isn't just about relationships, it's existential. To choose one career is to kill off all other potential careers. To commit to one person is to sacrifice the fantasy of the perfect partner who is always just around the corner. For the poor, every choice feels like a death. As the Jungian analyst Marie-Louise von Franz explained, he is terrified of being crucified on the cross of reality. He wants to keep all his options open, believing this is freedom. But it's a prison of infinite possibility and zero substance. A life lived in potential is a life that is never actually lived. He is like a man who stands before a banquet but never eats, because choosing one dish means he cannot have all the others. And so, he starves. He lives what's called a provisional life. His current job, his current relationship, it's all temporary. It's just a placeholder until his real life begins. The problem is, it never does. And the dark truth is this: his refusal to commit isn't a sign of superiority. It's a symptom of a deep-seated inferiority complex. He fears that if he truly commits, he will be found wanting. As long as his masterpiece is unwritten, it can remain a masterpiece in his mind. The moment he brings his dreams into reality, they become subject to failure, to criticism, to imperfection. And his ego, which is both inflated and incredibly fragile, cannot bear that. He prefers the safety of the dream to the risk of reality. He doesn't want a life. He wants a fantasy. So where does this eternal boy come from? Why does a man become stuck in psychological adolescence? Jungian psychology points to one central dynamic, the mother complex. This doesn't necessarily mean his biological mother was overtly controlling. The mother here is an archetypal force. It could be an overprotective mother who shielded him from every struggle. It could be an admiring mother who put him on a pedestal, convincing him he was a genius above the rules of life. Or Paradoxically, it could be a distant mother, whose absence left him with a deep, unfulfilled longing for maternal warmth he then spends his life trying to find. But no matter the cause, the result is the same. He never achieves psychological separation. He remains emotionally tethered to her, trapped in the comfortable, responsibility-free world of childhood. His ego is weak because it's never been tested. The devouring mother archetype has, in a sense, done it all for him. She has been his connection to the world, his emotional regulator, his source of validation. He is, as Jung might say, still contained within her psychic orbit. This unresolved complex then casts a long shadow over his entire adult life, especially his relationships. He isn't looking for a partner. He's unconsciously looking for a replacement mother. He seeks a woman who will admire him unconditionally and take care of the boring details of life for him. He wants her to be the strong, stable container for his chaotic energy. In the beginning, this can be disguised as a passionate romance. He is the free-spirited artist, and she is his muse. But soon, the reality emerges. He resents her for the very stability he demands, because it reminds him of the responsibilities he fears. He accuses her of trying to tie him down, when in fact, he is projecting his own internal struggle onto her. This is his tragic double bind. He craves the unconditional safety of the mother, but furiously resents anything that threatens his illusion of freedom. He's caught between a longing for the womb and a terror of being contained. This is why his relationships are a constant push and pull. He will pursue a woman with intoxicating intensity, only to withdraw into a cold shell the moment commitment is required. He cannot stay, because commitment feels like death. But he cannot truly leave either, because he needs that maternal energy to survive. And so he remains, a boy in a man's body, unable to see that the cage he fears is not outside him, but within him. The true chains are not the demands of a partner, but the invisible shackles of his own unresolved past. His deepest fear is the fear of incarnation. It's the terror of bringing his spirit fully down into the earth of his own life. To incarnate means to accept limits. To be born into a specific body, at a specific time, with a specific set of circumstances, it is the act of becoming real. And for the eternal boy, nothing is more frightening. He prefers to hover above life, observing it, dreaming about it, but never fully participating in it. This is why he cannot tolerate boredom or routine. Routine is the rhythm of embodied life. It is the daily work of maintaining a body, a home, a career. For the pure, this rhythm feels like a death march. It's the antithesis of the spontaneous existence he craves. This fear manifests as a chronic inability to finish what he starts. He is a brilliant beginner. The initial phase of any project, when it's still pure potential, fills him with energy. But as soon as the project enters the messy middle, the long, difficult phase of hard work and perseverance, he loses interest. The messy middle is the domain of reality, and it requires grit, discipline, and frustration tolerance, qualities he simply never developed. So he abandons the project and moves on to the next exciting idea, leaving a graveyard of half-built monuments to his potential. This same pattern poisons his search for meaning. He's a spiritual dilettante, flitting from one philosophy to another, one guru to another, always seeking the next profound insight that will transform his life without requiring any real effort. He collects spiritual concepts like hobbies, but he never allows any single path to take root in his soul. He refuses to submit to the discipline of a single practice because that too would be a limitation. He wants enlightenment without the practice, wisdom without the struggle. He fails to understand a truth the wise have always known, that spiritual depth isn't found in breath, but in digging one deep well. But for the puer, any moment of darkness is a sign that he's on the wrong path. And so he flees, ever searching for a path of pure, unbroken light, a path that does not exist in the real world. In his quest for everything, he ends up with nothing. Every psychological archetype has a shadow, an unconscious opposite. For the Puer Aeternus, the eternal boy, the shadow is the senex, the old man. While the pure is all youthful energy and boundless possibility, the senex represents structure, order, and cynicism. On the surface, they are polar opposites. But in the strange calculus of the psyche, the two are inseparable. The more you live in the light of one, the more the other festers in the darkness. You can see this shadow emerge in the Puer's life in shocking ways. The man who is usually so charming and optimistic can, when frustrated, suddenly flip into extreme cynicism. He might lash out with biting judgments, dismissing all institutions and commitments as hollow. In these moments, the voice of the bitter, disappointed old man breaks through. It is the voice of the part of him that knows, on some level, that his life of boundless freedom is a lie. This can be incredibly confusing for those around him. How can someone so full of life also be so full of contempt? It's because he has refused to consciously integrate the qualities of the Senex: discipline, responsibility, commitment. He has not built his own structures, so he can only fall back on nihilistic rage against all structures. This shadow also appears as a secret worship of power. The Puer who publicly rails against the establishment may secretly long for the approval of a powerful father figure. The rebel who despises rules may find himself drawn to rigid, authoritarian systems. This is because he has no internal structure, no inner father, no inner king. His inner world is chaotic, so he periodically craves an external authority to impose order upon him. The ultimate tragedy is when the Puer fails to grow and the shadow finally takes over. As he ages, the charm of the eternal boy fades. What's endearing at 25 becomes pathetic at 50. The world no longer cares about his potential. It demands results. His friends have built lives and families. They have less time for his dramas. The women once drawn to his boyish charm now see only his immaturity. He finds himself alone, with a profound and terrifying emptiness. And it is in this emptiness that the shadow Senex consumes him. The Puer doesn't mature into a wise elder. He curdles into a bitter, resentful old man. He becomes everything he once despised: rigid, cynical, and stuck in the past, forever mourning the potential he never realized, and blaming the world for his own refusal to live. This is the final destination for the man who refuses to grow up. He bypasses manhood entirely, and goes straight from being a boy to being a ghost. The journey out of this prison is not about killing the boy within. The creativity, the wonder, the passion for life, these are precious gifts. To destroy them would be to destroy the soul. The path to wholeness is not annihilation, but integration. It is the process Jung called individuation, becoming a complete individual by consciously integrating the various parts of yourself, including the shadow. For the man-child, this means he must stop running from the Senex and instead turn to face him. He must consciously build the structures he has always feared. The goal is not to become a boring, rigid old man, but a man who can hold the tension between the Puer and the Senex, between spirit and earth, between freedom and responsibility. This journey begins with a conscious descent. He must willingly leave the airy heights of potential and ground himself in the solid, difficult earth of reality. This means making a commitment and seeing it through, especially when it becomes hard. It might be committing to a single career and enduring its frustrations to build real mastery. It might be committing to a relationship and navigating its inevitable conflicts instead of running away. It might be committing to finishing a single creative project, bringing it from the perfect realm of ideas into the imperfect world of manifestation. Each act of commitment, each choice to stay when the impulse is to flee, is an act of defiance against the tyranny of the Puer. It is an act of incarnation. And as Franz noted, the only cure for the Puer is suffering. Not pointless, masochistic suffering, but the meaningful suffering that comes from taking on real responsibility and bearing the weight of one's own life. It is the suffering of discipline, of sacrifice, of letting go of the fantasy of perfection. To embrace the goodness of the real, this process requires him to build an internal father. He must become his own source of discipline, structure, and validation. He must learn to say no to his own escapist impulses. He must cultivate the inner authority that can look at his grandiose dreams and ask the practical, grounding question: and how will you make that happen? This is terrifying work, because it means taking full ownership of his life. He can no longer blame the world, his parents, or his partners. The responsibility is his and his alone. He must accept his limitations, that he cannot do everything or be everything. He must choose his patch of ground and cultivate it. In this act of choosing and committing, he will discover a paradox. True freedom is not found in the absence of limits, but in the voluntary acceptance of them. A river is only powerful because it is contained by its banks. Without them, it is just a swamp. Ultimately, the eternal boy must find a king to serve. Not an external king, but the king within, the ordering principle of his own soul. He must find a purpose larger than his own pleasure and egoic fantasies. He must take his creativity and dedicate it to something beyond himself, to his work, to his family, to his community. It is in this act of service to a higher value that his life finally finds its center. The boy who was a slave to his every whim becomes a man who is the master of his own destiny, not because he can do anything he wants, but because he has chosen what is truly worth doing. He has integrated the boy and the old man, and in so doing has become a complete man, one who can dream with his feet planted firmly on the ground. The path of the Puer Aeternus is not a condemnation. It is a profound and tragic story about squandered potential. But it is not a story that is only about some man. It is a story about a part of every human soul. We all have a corner of our psyche that longs to remain in the garden of infinite possibility, a part that whispers to us to avoid the hard, sacred work of choosing a life and living it fully. The allure of the eternal boy is the allure of the unfinished, the romanticism of what could be. But a life is not built on what could be. It is forged in the fires of what is. So now, the question turns to you. Where in your life are you living provisionally? What commitment are you avoiding? What difficult task are you postponing in favor of a more comforting fantasy? This is not about judging yourself. It's about engaging in the bravest act of all, radical self-honesty. Recognizing the pure within is the first step to integrating him. It is the beginning of the journey from being a passenger in your own life to becoming the pilot. If this exploration has resonated with you, if it has illuminated a part of yourself or someone you know, share "It's time to build" in the comments below. It's a declaration that you're ready to stop floating and start creating. The sky is for dreaming, but the ground is for living. And the world doesn't need more dreamers who are afraid to wake up. It needs men and women who have the courage to bring their dreams down to earth. Don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the depths of the human psyche. The path to wholeness is long, and we are just getting started.